With Fei's strength, this speed was a bit too slow. This was because he was using his barbarian character in the last 3 days. Most of the skills of the barbarian were meant to be used in 1 versus 1 combat. There weren't many group attack skills. In addition, the power of the barbarian couldn't purify evil energy, so Fei's pace was delayed. Until today, Fei had gotten the amount of mystical energy that was equivalent to 30% of the experience points needed to fill up the experience bar of Hell Mode level 100. It was a big reward. The royal family of Anji is ruthless. They didn't even let go of their own citizens. Fei looked around, and all that he could see were the gray, deadly land that seemed to stretch into the horizon, the stone status-like plants, and the zombies and mutated demon beasts that were wandering around. In fact, there were also many skeleton soldiers that were making bone-grinding noises while walking around with bone sabers. It seemed like the skeletons that were buried underground for dozens of years were stained by the dark energy of hell, and they were turned into skeleton soldiers and crawled out of their graves to cause destruction. Whoosh! Suddenly, a beam of red light dashed down from the sky and shot toward Fei, a red hummingbird. Fei took out the intelligence report from the storage ring on the bird's neck, and he sighed after reading it. The Anji Empire was done. Since the undead creature catastrophe was blocked off from the north due to Fei's arrival a month earlier, the undead creatures couldn't break through and focused all their attention on the south. As a result, they became undefeatable for the troops of Anji, and the zombies and mutated demon beasts destroyed this dominating force that was on the rise. Now, it was hard to determine if the royal family of Anji were behind this undead creature catastrophe, but one thing was for sure: the Anji Empire was now in history. The members of the royal family of Anji were either eaten by zombies or turned into zombies. According to the investigations of the Letter Office and other intelligence networks on the continent, there were almost no living beings inside the territory of the Anji Empire. Fei gasped when he saw the report. Although the Anji Empire didn't have a firm foundation due to its rapid expansion in a short time, it had at least tens of millions of citizens. Therefore, it meant that there were at least tens of millions of dark creatures of hell wandered the land in front of Fei. If counting the skeleton soldiers that crawled out of their graves due to the hell power and the large number of animals and insects, the number of undead creatures would increase by many folds. This was the terrifying thing about undead creature catastrophe. Like the plague, as long as there was life on this land, it can easily spread to every corner of the continent. Besides, this undead creature catastrophe was different from prior incidents. The dark energy of hell was many times more powerful than undead energy. Even the priests of the Holy Church had a hard time purifying this evil energy. Since the royal family of Anji is crushed, I wonder if I can still find some clues in the capital. I can't delay it anymore. I need to get to the capital of Anji and figure this out as soon as possible. After thinking for a bit, he decided to speed up and get to the capital of Anji. However, before leaving, he had to set up some bright magic arrays by the border between the Anji Empire and the new Alania Empire. He had to prevent the undead creature catastrophe from spreading back into the north. After doing all that, Fei suddenly detected something when he was about to leave. With his sharp eyes, he glanced back as his spirit energy rushed out into the area like waves. However, he was soon confused. This is so strange. This isn't my first time feeling this strange sensation. There seems to be something monitoring me. I tried several times, but I didn't discover anything. With my current strength, even demigods can't get within 1,000 meters of me without me noticing. What is going on? Half a day later, Fei arrived at the capital of Anji. Looking down from the sky, Fei saw that the capital of Anji, which occupied an area of thousands of square kilometers, was destroyed. The terrifying roars of the zombies and mutated demon beasts filled the air, and this city became a paradise for undead creatures. The streaks of evil energy soared into the air, and dark clouds covered the sky. The air was dense and suffocating, and the corrosive dark energy of hell was everywhere in this region. Even if low-tier sun-class lords came here, they might be stained by the evil energy and become zombie kings. It is fortunate that I didn't order Black Pearl and Cyclops to come here. Otherwise, even the energy barriers on the 2 barges might not be able to block the evil energy for long. This place is almost the same as the environment in Diablo World. It is completely stained, and ordinary humans can't live here. There are several powerful streaks of evil energy. Could it be that monsters on the level of Lord of Hell are created? Wait, there seems to be other people. Let me go and check. Faye discovered the strangeness in the city. After thinking for a bit, he turned into a dash of light and shot toward the enormous capital of Angie. Roar! Who is it? How dare you charge into the territory of the Grim Reaper? A thick black cloud floated into the sky, radiating a strong spirit energy wave, both mechanical and crude. This voice sounded in Faye's head. It sounded like a toddler just learned how to speak. The deadly energy boiled below Faye. It was a terrifying king-level monster of hell. It looked like a meat mountain, more than 10 meters tall. After seeing Faye's arrival, it roared in anger, and many white-bone spears appeared out of nowhere before shooting at Faye like meteorites. It seems to be at Morning Sun Realm, and it isn't the most powerful monster in this city. Faye didn't even pay attention to its attack. When the bone spears were about 100 meters away from Faye, they were shuttered by Faye's bodily protective energy. As the king dashed by this monster, he punched out from far away, quickly exploding this meat mountain-like monster. Then, a vast amount of mystical energy leaked out of its corpse. Faye waved his hand, and this streak of mystical energy was absorbed into his body. This streak of energy was abundant, and it rushed around in Faye's body like a surging river, nurturing Faye's cells and organs. Damn! The energy that boss-level monsters provide is insane. If I kill about 30 to 40 monsters on this level, my barbarian character will easily advance into the demigod realm. However, I should look around and investigate first. I have a feeling that the royal palace of Angie contains items that I'm looking for. To avoid disturbing other boss-level monsters in the city, Faye switched to his assassin character and used the skill, Cloak of Shadow. He instantly disappeared from the air, and he rapidly moved toward the majestic and eye-catching royal palace of Angie in the middle of the city. Boom! 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 Suddenly, a series of explosions sounded about 1,000 meters away, and silver holy power seemed to loom over there. Faye instantly got cautious and quickly approached under stealth. Andrew, you dumb pig. What did you do? Such an upheaval. Do you want to get us all killed? If the zombie kings come over, we will all die. Shush. Stop talking and start running. Let's leave first. Herds of zombies will be here soon. Damn it. Protect us. Father God. Why are we here anyway? Shut up and watch your step. Let's sneak into the royal palace, and we will start moving once we get a good look at what is happening inside. We will leave here as soon as we get that item. About 5 kilometers away from the royal palace, a team of about a dozen people quickly moved between structures. There were mercenaries, swordsmen, nobles, and priests. They all had different identities. Also, it was clear that they weren't getting along that well. While complaining, they moved and dodged the herds of zombies that were charging at them from all directions, and their target was the royal palace. This group of people were all strong. The weakest one was at peak full moon realm. In addition, it seemed like they had a magical item that could help them avoid being detected by the monsters that had a great sense of smell. Otherwise, they might be surrounded by many monsters already. How come a group of people like them is here? What are they looking for? Let me follow up and see. Faye followed these 12 masters without making any noise. He detected some information from the conversations between these people. It seemed like these people wanted to find something valuable in the royal palace of Angie. It was clear that this team was put together on a temporary basis. The members were all mighty and dominated over regions, but they didn't coordinate that well. Despite all that, the people who invited them to join the team were influential, and 3 of the members were priests of the Holy Church who were at the Sun class realm. People like them could be ranked higher than red-robe deacons in the Northern Regional Church. The fact that they appeared here was mind-boggling. Could it be that they are after the wealth of the royal family of Angie? Faye quickly followed along and continued to guess. He heard that the royal family of Angie stored all the natural treasures, godly herbs, great weapons, and magic crystals that they took by force at one place. Could it be that these people were after these treasures after knowing that the royal family of Angie got wiped out by the undead creatures? This was one possibility. After all, the wealth of a nation was enough to make many people jealous, and they would take great risk to get it. In just the blink of an eye, this group of people got close to the royal palace of Angie. The royal palace of Angie was magnificent. Firm and tall defense wall wrapped around the grand buildings. Ordinary masters would have a hard time breaking in. Inside the royal palace, there were many statues of gods and other creatures, and fancy buildings were everywhere, looking like the paradise where the gods lived. Unfortunately, such a majestic place became a fun park for undead creatures. On the square outside the royal palace, many zombies were wandering around as if they were patrolling the land. They looked like a black flood. This group of zombies was terrifying. These zombies were all evolved, and their individual combat strength reached moon class. Even if a sun class lord came here, death might be unavoidable in front of this group of monsters that were fearless and didn't know how to back off. The only thing that these zombies lacked was intelligence, and they didn't comprehend laws of nature so that they couldn't fly. Otherwise, the entire continent would be in big trouble. Let's talk about it. There are about 3 hours before dark, so we don't have much time left. We should enter the royal palace of Angie tomorrow at noon. The blazing sunlight can suppress undead creatures a little, and their strengths would increase by many folds at night. Even if we can find that item after going in today, we will be in great danger if we couldn't instantly make it out. Out of the 12 people, a middle-aged man opened his mouth and said slowly. He was thin, and his eyes were squinted, making him appear clever. His reasons made sense, and most of his peers nodded and agreed with him. No, we have to enter right now. A priest who was wearing light armor and had blonde hair shook his head and objected. This city is filled with evil creatures, and they are evolving every second. If we stay the night here, more trouble and issues might arise. Also, we have a map of the royal palace of Angie. As long as we are fast, 3 hours are enough for us to complete the mission. Besides, the magic energy that is preventing zombies and other undead creatures from smelling our odor can't last until tomorrow noon. Yeah, Priest Andy is right. We have 12 people. What are we afraid of? In addition, we hired you guys, so you should listen to us. Another priest who was bald and had a white beard and the third priest who had a baby face but also had wrinkles all over agreed with the blonde priest Andy. Seeing the 3 priests persisting, the other 9 people looked uncertain. After discussing amongst themselves, they agreed to Priest Andy's request. After making some noises and attracting the attention of the zombies on the square, they turned into 12 beams of light and flew into the sky, dashing behind the tall and firm defense walls of the royal palace of Angie. Huh? The Holy Church hired these people? Strange. Something is off. If they are really after something important, they don't need to enlist help from others. The Northern Regional Church has more than 10 Sun-class lords, and they could complete this mission. Faye thought to himself as he hid in the dark. He saw and heard everything, and he got a little suspicious. The king's strength was way higher than those 12 people, and the assassin character was great at hiding and achieving stealth. Therefore, he didn't have to worry about being discovered by those 12 people and the zombies. After thinking for a while, the king followed them directly. How can this be? Seeing one of their peers on the ground, missing his heart, the other 11 masters' expressions changed. They only entered the royal palace of Angie not long ago. Before they could explore and go deeper, a terrifying undead black knight sneak attacked them, instantly killing one of their peers. Although that person was only at peak full moon realm, and he was the weakest in the group, his death seemed to signify something, and others feel sad and sensed an ominous threat. May his soul rest in peace. Priest Andy, who had long blonde curly hair, prayed and quickly urged everyone, "Guys, let's continue. This mission is dangerous so that casualties couldn't be completely avoided. We have limited time, so we can't mourn too much." With ugly expressions, the group of people moved forward, venturing deeper into the royal palace of Angie with cautious. The royal palace of Angie was giant, and the paths were all curly, so they had to make turns frequently. Since tall buildings and giant statues were everywhere, people's vision was blocked off, and it was easy for them to lose their sense of direction. However, people didn't dare to jump up and fly out of the city. They didn't want to face a wave of zombie kings. The situation is strange. Why are there no undead creatures in this giant royal palace? The clever middle-aged man suddenly asked with an ominous feeling looming on his mind. I feel like something is off. It is too quiet in here, another mercenary said in agreement. My intuition is usually sharp. I feel like we have fallen into a well-prepared trap. As a mercenary, this man started as a little figure and worked all his way up. After hundreds of battles, he became a Sun-class mercenary king. He had been close to death many times, so he had a sharp instinct and was very sensitive to danger. Hearing his words, other few masters looked regretful and wanted to retreat. Today, something was strange. A few people already regretted being hired by the Holy Church due to their greed. This mission seemed strange from the very beginning. You are overthinking this. According to the stories, Emperor Karamov of Anji was lustful, and only beautiful women were kept here. They were mostly weak and defenseless. Also, this emperor was proud of his strength, so he never stationed guards. Besides, all the females had to be naked in here. Without cultivation strength, these women can only be ordinary zombies after being turned into undead creatures. Since they are blocked inside the royal palace by the tall walls, they couldn't evolve. What is there to be afraid of? Blonde, curly-haired priest Andy said to others fearlessly. He was calm and not afraid at all. Yeah, we don't have much time left. Since we are already here, it doesn't make sense to back away now. Let's step up our game and get that item today. We will walk in the very front. You guys only need to follow up and guard our backs. The bald priest and the baby-faced priest with wrinkles said to the hired masters before walking to the front. Others couldn't do anything but follow. If they backed out now, time and resources that they spent so far would be wasted. In addition, if these three priests of the Holy Church got injured or died, they would face the judgment of the Holy Church and potentially be hunted down. In the blink of an eye, they already moved forward for more than 1,000 meters. The godly-looking main palace where Emperor Karamov stayed in before was very close to them. Look up ahead. I told you that there is no danger. With a smile on his face, the blonde, curly-haired priest who walked in the front urged the team without looking back. Let's speed up. Very soon we will. Before he could finish speaking, a black flame flashed behind him, and several gasps sounded. Everyone put up their guard, and they instantly spread out. After calming down and looking around, they found that 4 of their peers disappeared. What happened? Where are Cust and others? What is going on? Someone roared in anger. That was... The middle-aged, clever-looking master frowned and recalled what happened. After thinking for a bit, he said, it seemed to be a magic teleportation array. Cust and other 3 got teleported away. Damn it! How could this happen? That power was clearly undead energy. How can there be undead magic arrays? A total of 12 of them came in, and 5 of them were already gone within the first 20 minutes of entering the royal palace of Anji. Those 5 people were all powerful masters who dominated over regions. This situation was bizarre, making the atmosphere a little chilly and terrifying. Further away, Faye had been following them at a calm pace. He saw that dash of black flame. The king was sure that it was a mystical teleportation magic device. Even Sun-class lords who were pulled into it couldn't escape, and those 4 people were teleported somewhere. It seemed like the complexity and secrets hidden in this royal palace were beyond Faye's estimates. From further away, Faye saw the remaining people arguing about something. After a while, that middle-aged, clever-looking master and a man who was 1.9 meters tall turned around and left, no longer continuing the exploration and going deeper into the palace. The other people cautiously dashed toward the main palace of the royal palace of Anji with the 3 priests in the center. Faye paused for a second before following the group with priests. Nothing else strange happened along the way, and that calmed down these 5 people. Soon, this group of people arrived at the main palace of the royal palace. It was less than 1 hour away from sunset. This group of people didn't stop at the gate of the main palace and quickly got through the corridors and the stairs. Without hesitation, they dashed into the gates that looked like the bloody mouths of horrifying prehistoric beasts. getting engulfed by darkness. It was quite dim inside the main palace. A nose-piercing, disgusting odor permeated the air, and black bloodstains could be seen all over the smooth, silver floor. In fact, the blood even splashed onto the walls and stone pillars in the palace. However, the bloodstains already dried up. They looked like black abstract paintings, and they also seemed like eyes that were observing what was happening inside the palace. It was silent in here, and the atmosphere was horrifying. According to the information that we have, that item should be placed in a hidden compartment under the throne in the main palace. Blonde, curly-haired priest Andy showed a relieved smile, and he looked around before pointing at the back of the palace and yelling in delight. "It is over there." In the depths of the palace, a majestic throne that had a noble and dominating aura quietly sat on a platform above 9 steps, and it still had a light flashing around it. The magnificent architectural style and delicate setup were awe-inspiring. Seeing this, it was quite easy to imagine the scene where Emperor Karamov sat on the throne and glanced at the tens of thousands of officials. It was both dominating and striking. Unfortunately, the entire Angie Empire was destroyed, becoming a part of history. Angie's dream of becoming the most powerful force in the northern region of Azeroth and potentially the entire continent was now only a dream. It couldn't be realized anymore. "I will go and fetch it." The only female master amongst the 5 people opened her mouth and took the task. She was wearing a tight-fitting red bodysuit, and her figure was sexy. Since she cultivated wind elemental warrior energy, she was agile and fast. In the blink of an eye, she got to the 7-colored crystal throne and checked around. She discovered a well-hidden mechanism at one of the armrests of the throne, and she lightly pressed on it. Boom! Changes suddenly occurred. However, the hidden compartment that she was looking for didn't appear. Dark light suddenly flashed in the main palace, and light beams that were about the thickness of an arm shot out of the ground one after another, becoming a tightly sealed prison that was about 4 square meters big and locking the other master beside the 3 priests. Before they could react, a series of bestial roars resonated from the light prison, and an endless amount of black mist gushed out of the light beams. The black mist emitted devil-like evil energy, and it was highly corrosive. As it moved toward the Sun-class lord imprisoned inside, this master couldn't defend for long. After his warrior energy flames flashed on him, he was engulfed by the black mist in the next second. Then, a series of terrifying and shrill screams sounded from the inside. "What is going on?" The female master in red was shocked, and she quickly pressed on that mechanism again, but nothing happened. She immediately dashed back to the 3 priests. She did this subconsciously. After all, in the face of evil energy, it was safer to be around priests of the Holy Church. "Quickly save him!" the woman in red shouted in anger and fear. However, the 3 priests didn't react to her words. They didn't escape and didn't try to help. The woman in red looked at the 3 priests in confusion, and she saw 3 faces that had strange smiles on them. "Ha ha ha ha! Why should we help him?" Blonde, curly-haired priest Andy laughed, and the gentle and friendly smile on his face turned wicked and vicious. Something happened to the other 2 priests, and they stared at the woman in red as if she were an animal that fell into the trap of hunters. "You?" The woman in red understood something, and she turned into a gush of wind and dashed toward the entrance of the palace like a bolt of lightning, trying to escape as soon as she could. Unfortunately, an iron tower-like figure appeared by the gate. Boom! This figure punched out. This technique was dominating yet delicate. With black undead energy coiled around his fists, he blocked all the escape paths, forcing the woman in red to attack and take the strike head-on. As a result, she was knocked back. "It is you. How is this possible?" After falling to the ground, the woman in red finally got a good look at the person who stopped her. She immediately screamed and couldn't believe what she was seeing, as if she saw a ghost. This iron tower-like figure who blocked the woman in red's escape path at the entrance was the person whom the undead Black Knight sneak attacked and killed when the team just entered the royal palace of Angie. Now he was alive. The only thing was that this tall and muscular man had a new look. He was now wearing black iron armor from somewhere, and the armor wrapped around his chest and waist so tight that it seemed like it was grown on his skin, completely covering the bloody hole at the location of his heart. His arms and legs were full of cracks, and so were his neck and face. Since his skin now looked as black as iron and had a metallic texture, at the first look, he appeared to be a toy doll that a terrible craftsman created by placing different parts from different dolls together. Right now, he was engulfed by the black mist, and a vicious red light flashed in his eyes. This person had completely fallen and became a warrior of death. The most terrifying thing was that from how he moved, this man who revived still kept his combat strength and battle instinct from when he was alive. He was extremely terrifying and was now a Sun-class warrior of death. What happened? Stunned, the busty woman in red looked at the three priests who were smiling wickedly, and she seemed to have understood something. With shock in her eyes, she murmured, "You are priests of the Holy Church. How could you cooperate with the undead? Priests colluding with the undead? How can this happen?" The busty woman in red thought to herself, but no one could answer this question. This news was bizarre and shocking. The entire continent would be stunned if this news got out, and huge waves would surge up. The busty woman in red was experienced. After the short shock, she knew that she and her peers stepped into a well-prepared trap from the beginning. If this continued, she was dead for sure. This woman screamed, and her body shook. Instantly, 20 to 30 red figures appeared, and they dashed toward all directions. They each looked real and perfect. It was impossible to tell them apart and spot the real her. This technique was named Pinocchio's Lies, and it was this busty woman in red's signature combat technique. It was used for escaping, and it saved her many times. Even if she were surrounded by 2 to 3 masters on her level, she was confident that she could get out. Right now, since she was in a dangerous situation, more of her potential was stimulated, and red shadows flashed in the palace. They were as fast as bolts of lightning, and it was hard to tell how many of them were there. Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! The three priests laughed hysterically with wicked smiles, but they didn't do anything or try to stop her. It seemed like this busty woman in red was able to escape in the next moment, but a series of roars sounded from the floor of the palace. Then, warriors of death similar to the one that this woman in red ran into appeared by every window, side door, and main gate. An intense, deathly sensation permeated the air. It was suffocating. Boom! 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 As a series of explosions sounded, all the red shadows were torn apart by the sharp black claws. The busty woman in red was knocked back to where she was again, and she was seriously injured. A streak of blood slid down her white and smooth skin under her mouth, and desperation appeared in her eyes. Cust, Barry, Lawrence. You guys? You? Also Kane and Coutinho. Didn't you guys leave? Actually, the busty female in red was shocked. The black iron-like figures around her were her peers from earlier. In such a short time, all these masters became undead warriors. Especially the middle-aged, clever-looking Kane and his friend. They decided to leave the party and back out by leaving the capital of Angie, but they had fallen as well, becoming the terrifying warriors of death. Right now, the shrill screams in the palace had slowly disappeared. The black light prison in the middle of the palace also vanished, and the black mist dissipated. Then, the master who was prisoned inside showed his face. He already lost his life, and his body turned greenish-black as if he were cast out of metal. Also, cracks filled his body, and all his hair fell off. His face looked dry, and he was so dehydrated that his skin had become wrinkled like the skin of an orange. His eye sockets sunk deeper into his skull, and a red light flashed in his gray eyes as death energy spun around him. Tap, 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 tap. No more, no less. Except for the busty woman in red and the three priests, there were 8 warriors of death. The 12 members of the team gathered together in this fashion. Whoosh! The new warrior of death suddenly attacked. As black death energy flashed, this warrior sneak attacked and took the busty woman in red by surprise. Since she couldn't dodge, her lower legs were penetrated by the black death energy. Since a lot of her warrior energy was used during casting Pinocchio's Lies, she was exhausted, and she fell to the ground powerlessly. Why? Why? Why are you doing this? The busty woman in red knew that she couldn't escape from this, and she stared at the three priests who were grinning viciously with hatred and anger in her eyes. She could have cut these three bastards tens of thousands of times if she had known their true nature. It was clear that the 9 of them fell into the scheme of these 3 despicable priests of the Holy Church. Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! A series of mechanical but death-filled laughter suddenly sounded in the hall. It was as loud as thunder, ear-piercing, and full of penetration force. It directly affected people's souls. The reason is simple. The Grim Reaper's army lacks quality material. Suddenly, a huge and cold figure appeared on the 5-colored crystal thrown deep into the palace. This figure was as dark as ink, and black light flashed on him. This master was completely covered by dark armor. The material of the armor was hard to determine, but it was full of sharp back hooks, looking terrifying and seemed to be able to devour human souls. Also, death energy engulfed him, creating a lot of black human faces that were about the size of fists. With wicked expressions and shrill screams, these human faces made this master seem like the Grim Reaper from hell. Who are you? The busty woman in red forced herself to hold still while she asked in anger. The black death energy already traveled up her body through the injury. However, no one answered her. In the eyes of the master in the dark armor and the 3 priests, she was already a dead person. Baturk, our deal is done today. According to your request, the Holy Church has delivered 20 Sun-class lords to you. According to our agreement, you should give us a copy of the Holy Code of Hell. Ha ha ha! The raw material that you guys brought are indeed top quality. The mechanical voice sounded from the figure who was enveloped by black demonic armor and was sitting on the 5-colored crystal throne. He was monotone as if he weren't alive. He slowly continued, however, in our agreement, I said that I need Sun-class lords as material. Out of the 20 people that you brought over, 3 of them are only at peak moon class. They don't fit our criteria. Therefore, I can't give you a copy of the Holy Code of Hell. What? You dare to bargain with the Holy Church? The bald priest was enraged after hearing what this mysterious figure had said. He replied in anger, We already paid a hefty price to bring you these 20 masters. Do you think all the Sun-class lords on the continent are idiots? Bringing you 17 Sun-class lords and 3 peak full moon elites is our limit. Right? Don't try to push it. The baby-faced priest full of wrinkles also got angry. With their status and identities in the Northern Regional Church, their words were taken as iron laws, and tens of millions of people followed their teachings and served them with care. Even the emperors of the super empires didn't dare to disrespect them or show them bad attitudes. They were unwilling to lower themselves to do this mission in the first place, and this damn undead creature who was dirty and low in their eyes dared to bargain with them repeatedly. This was a death sentence from their perspective. Ha ha ha! So, after 1,000 years, the humans on the continent are weakened to this degree. Even 20 Sun-class lords can't be lured? So disappointing. The figure with the dark demonic armor didn't budge. While sitting on the throne, he didn't even move. Also, it seemed like his mechanical voice was created by a mechanism and not a vocal cord. This figure continued, Are you angry? Mortals' emotions, Do you think the Holy Church is that great? Unfortunately, in the eyes of the dead, it is only comprised of hypocrites and clowns. It seems like after no one doubted you and disciplined you for 1,000 years, you all became dumb pigs. Poor bugs, put away your method of intimidating others. In the eyes of the Grim Reaper, everything is fair and just. You? The bald priest and the baby-faced priest with wrinkles were enraged, and they were going to strike. The blonde, curly-haired priest Andy, who hadn't spoken in a while, quickly grabbed them, and he calmly asked, Tell me what you want, Honorable Demon Baturk of Hell. The requirement is simple. Bring me 3 more Sun-class lords as raw material. Only 20 warriors of death can satisfy my need. The figure with the dark demonic armor wasn't willing to drop his price. No, there isn't enough time. Our operation has attracted the attention of some people. Even though we are in the chaos era, the disappearance of 20 masters will pull in unwanted attention. If this incident gets exposed, Even the Holy Church can't bear all the pressure. Priest Andy thought for a while and refused as well. Ha ha ha. Either you can satisfy my need of 20 Sun-class lords, or you can give up on the holy code of hell. You pick. The priest's expressions turned ugly. The blonde, curly-haired priest lowered his head, as if he wanted to think through this complicated issue. But he suddenly attacked in the next moment. With bright holy power in his palms, he struck out both of his hands as fast as bolts of lightning. However, he wasn't attacking the figure with the dark demonic armor on the throne. Instead, he struck the bald priest and the baby-faced priest with wrinkles who came with him. Boom! While explosions sounded, streaks of silver runes flew out of the hands of Priest Andy, illuminating his face that looked vicious and wicked. At the same time, a lot of blood gushed out of the two priests' bodies. These two priests didn't know that their most trusted peer would attack them. Without enough time to react, they were taken down by one strike, and they couldn't even struggle or try to escape. Even the busty woman in red was shocked by what was going on, and she was stupefied as she watched the situation develop further. Right now, she was struggling and trying to survive as the undead energy invaded the warrior energy channels in her legs. Why did this blonde, curly-haired priest suddenly attack and severely injure his two peers? She thought to herself. Are you crazy? You? The bald priest questioned in anger as he was confused by this as well. Why? The baby-faced priest with wrinkles also couldn't understand the situation. However, Priest Andy completely ignored the questions of his two peers as if he didn't hear them. He turned around and smiled before saying to the figure with the dark demonic armor, Mr. Baturk, these two people are also Sun-class lords. They can be used as raw material by you, right? Eh? Ha ha ha. Great. This is great. I didn't expect this at all. You priests preach virtue, morality, and kindness, but you are more terrifying compared to us, creatures of hell, when you are merciless. Even though I'm a servant of the Grim Reaper, I'm a little scared of you. Dark demonic armor Bastark's mechanical laughter resonated in the hall, and it fluttered people's clothes. At this point, the colorful throne under him became pitch black already. In the next moment, beams of black light shot up from the ground, instantly imprisoning the two priests who were severely injured and couldn't move. Then, the black mist formed clouds and engulfed these two poor people. No, you can't do this. We are priests of the Holy Church, we. The two priests let out shrill screams of desperation as if they were beasts that were being slaughtered. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha. You all deserve this. You all deserve this. The busty woman in red was burning her Sun-class core energy to defend the invasion of the dark power of hell. Despite all this, one of her legs already turned green and zombified. Seeing this scene, she laughed and cursed. It was pleasant for her to see two perpetrators of this trap that killed almost everyone in the group having a taste of their own medicine. The palace was filled with the screams and whines of the two priests while they died. Since they cultivated the holy power of the Holy Church, they were able to better defend against the dark power of hell, so the process of turning them into undead creatures was slower. Unfortunately for these two, this wasn't a good thing. They wanted to die faster and quicker. Being invaded and corroded by the terrifying black mist was like being eaten alive by tens of thousands of ants. Now, can you give a copy of the Holy Code of Hell? The blonde, curly-haired priest didn't feel sympathetic toward his screaming peers at all, and he asked that question with a smile on his face as he took one step forward. From his expression, it seemed like he didn't commit that shameless and indecent act. There seems to be lacking one. Dark demonic armor Baturk lightly shook his head. You, don't push it too far. The blonde, curly-haired priest instantly understood Bastark's intention, and his face changed color. He roared, Do you want to kill me? Do you want to use me as the last piece of raw material? Okay, come on then. Kill me. Do you really dare to challenge the bottom line of the Holy Church? Do you even know what our bottom line is? If you really anger the Holy Church, the Northern Regional Church can turn this little place of yours and your people into smoke. The people on the Holy Mountain at Sicily Island don't even need to move. The atmosphere in the palace became intense and deadly. Okay, those 3 peak moon-class elites combined can somewhat be valued as a low-tier sun-class lord. The deal is done. After a while, dark demonic armor Baturk finally made the decision. It was clear that this demon didn't want to flip the table and stand directly against the Holy Church right now. He was still a little afraid of the mammoth-like giant force on the continent. On the other hand, the blonde, curly-haired priest also heaved a sigh of relief after hearing that. He wasn't as calm as he appeared to be. His back was covered with cold sweat. Now knowing that this demon was willing to accept the deal as it was, he exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and said, "Since this is the case, then give me the item that the Holy Church needs. After that, our deal will be done." After a moment of silence, Baturk, who was engulfed in the black demonic mist, waved his hand, and a beam of black light shot out, carrying a piece of white bone plate that had dense mystical characters and images engraved on it. This bone plate contained mystical energy, making others' hearts shiver when seeing it. With heat and anticipation in his eyes, the blonde, curly-haired priest grew excited. This operation was crucial to the Holy Church. If he could finish this mission, his status in the church would increase by a lot. Also, he just cautiously eliminated 2 people who would fight for the credit with him. If he just blamed the death of those 2 priests on Baturk, others couldn't investigate this and find out the truth. Right now, this mission was about to be completed, and he already foresaw his bright future. How could he not be excited? Just as he reached out his hand toward the white bone plate, something unexpected suddenly happened. "Huh? What is this? Let me check it out first." A clear voice abruptly appeared in the center of the palace, and it was full of mockery. Not far from everyone, ripples suddenly appeared in the space, and a tall and handsome figure vaguely appeared there. This man waved his hand, and the white bone plate made a 90-degree turn and flew toward that man before being grasped in his hand. "Who is it?" Both Priest Andy and Dark Demonic Armor Baturk gasped at the same time. This was something that was beyond their comprehension, and they were almost terrified. Both of them were top-tier masters in the northern region of Azeroth, and this land was Dark Demonic Armor Baturk's headquarters with many magic watchtowers and traps set up in the area. Even if a mosquito flew in, it would be detected and discovered. However, they all stayed in this palace for a long time, and they didn't notice that an invisible person was standing beside them. Boom! 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 The 2 masters instantly started to fiercely attack this mysterious man who appeared to be a foe. The blonde, curly-haired priest started to chant a spell, and something magnificent occurred. Suddenly, 6 pairs of eye-piercing white wings opened behind his back, and this priest turned into the archangel who held a sword of judgment. When he waved the sword in his hand, even space was torn, and a holy and bright presence appeared in the palace, getting rid of some of the evil and chilly sensation. Dark Demonic Armor Baturk blinked, and his body that was about 4 meters tall instantly appeared before that vague figure. As he clawed forward with his blade-like fingers, the hundreds of clouds of black mist that looked like distorted human faces shrill screamed and dashed toward this figure as well. The crazy wind instantly appeared in the palace, making it look terrifying like the end of the world. The busty woman in red who was laying on the ground was stunned by this sudden change. It was clear that this new figure was a human master. Even though he is strong, he is too careless. Since he was able to avoid being detected by this priest and this demon, why did he reveal himself? Now he is discovered, and he probably can't get away now. He will be killed as well and turned into a warrior of death. Honestly speaking, this busted woman in red wanted this human master who just appeared to leave here alive so that he could reveal what happened here to the entire world. However, it was clear that the possibility of him escaping was close to zero. She didn't think that anyone could escape from the joint attack of these 2 masters. However, what happened next made her doubt her own eyes. "Don't mess around. I'm busy." Faced with the joint attacks of the 2 masters, this figure who just appeared didn't take it seriously. With a casual and teasing tone, he replied while he simply waved his hand as a faint golden light flashed on him. It seemed like he was getting rid of a fly. However, a shocking thing happened. When this man slapped out, the blonde, curly-haired priest's light sword shattered as if it were a kid's toy. It didn't end there. The power within this slap passed through to the priest from the sword, and this priest shook, backed off, raised his head, and puked up a mouthful of blood. Then, the 6 pair of angel wings that each had a wingspan of 10 meters shattered as well. This priest was severely injured, and he instantly backed out of his archangel mode. Then, this slap collided with dark demonic armor Basterk's sharp claws. This undead creature, who seemed unrivaled in the eyes of this busty woman, only lasted 4 more seconds compared to Priest Andy. Then, the black mist around his body quickly melted away and disappeared as he screamed. Then, his giant body got pushed back, creating 2 deep grooves on the ground. In the end, the ground couldn't hold him back, and the force within the slap sent him flying. He smashed onto the throne that was in the back of the palace and broke several stone pillars before being buried under them. The busty woman in red was stupefied. Actually, so easily. He defeated these 2 powerful masters so casually. Who is he? Is he a god? It is hard to imagine that such a powerful entity exists in the world. Could it be that he is the most powerful human on the continent Mardona? She thought to herself. Who are you? The blonde, curly-haired priest spat out blood and looked terrified. While his body shivered and staggered, he asked in shock. In the palace, as the dust and the evil black mist slowly settled and dissipated, this insanely powerful figure was revealed. How is this possible? So young. After seeing this figure's face, the busty woman in red felt like her head wasn't enough to process the information. She had never expected that this powerful master would be a young man who looked about 20 years old. His long black hair fluttered behind his head like a waterfall, and he was handsome and dashing with distinct facial features such as sharp brows and star-like eyes. His white royal robe was as pure as snow, and he looked bright and radiant like the only light of hope in this palace that was engulfed by darkness. "It is you?" The blonde, curly-haired priest's face changed color. It was clear that he recognized the person in front of him, and he emphasized each word as he continued, "King of Chambord Alexander. Haha, don't make it sound so intimate. That might cause a misunderstanding. It will make it seem like we are old acquaintances." Faye, who was delighted with his initial performance, smiled cunningly and said, "In reality, I don't even know you. King Alexander of Chambord? Is he the human emperor of the north who is being praised by many in the northern region of Azeroth?" The busty woman in red was stunned. She was somewhat shocked by what she saw. So, all the rumors are true? In the last while, the legends and stories about the human emperor of the north were being spread among the low-class civilians in the northern region of Azeroth, becoming the hottest topic at the moment. In the rumors, this king of an affiliated kingdom of the Zenith Empire was insanely powerful, and many said that he was invincible. Also, he had defeated a demigod. All kinds of rumors were being passed around, and the king was almost like a real god in these stories. It was almost unbelievable to others. Just like other masters in the circle, this busty woman in red disregarded all these rumors and looked at them in disdain. Also, she looked down at the title of Human Emperor of the North. In her eyes, this was the result of the arrogant bumpkin from a remote region who got a little stronger, and the foolish civilians promoted him for nothing. In her mind, this was the only reason why a man so young could possibly obtain the title of Human Emperor. Could anyone bear the title of Human Emperor? Except for that supreme master who went against all the odds and saved humans thousands of years ago, no one had dared to call themselves the Human Emperor. But now it seemed like, from the strength that was showcased by the casual attack, the busty woman in red had to admit that this handsome young man in front of her was qualified to contest for the title of Human Emperor. "Alexander, do you know what you are doing? How dare you disrupt the mission of the Holy Church?" The blonde, curly-haired priest was angry and anxious, and he showed everything on his fat face. He stared at the white bone plate in Faye's hand, and he wanted to go over there and take it back. However, he didn't dare to do so. The rumors that he heard about Faye and the strength that Faye demonstrated in the casual attack shattered all this vicious fatty's confidence. As the representation of love and justice, the combination of kindness and nobility, I ignored my own safety and stepped out at this critical time to break the evil deal with demons that could threaten the future of humans. And just like that, the information engraved on the bone plate put Faye in a good mood, so he smiled and teased, "What about you, Mr. Priest? Do you know what you are doing? As a high-level member of the Holy Church, you are dealing with the devil? This is a stain on the face of Father God, and it is a betrayal of the Holy Church. Your actions are enough to tie you on the fire execution cross on the Holy Mountain on Sicily Island and burn you for 100 years. You?" The blonde, curly-haired priest was so angry that his face looked distorted. He shouted back, "Bullshit! What do you know? I'm here to complete this mission under the secret order of Bishop Platini. This mission is closely linked to the safety of humans. Quickly give back the bone plate." "Ah, so it is Platini who is cooperating with the devil." Faye rubbed his chin and pretended to think while saying, "If this is the case, Platini also joined the evil power of hell? This is unexpected. No, I must pass this news out. This is breaking news. It is a grand conspiracy. You?" The blonde, curly-haired priest felt like he was going crazy. He felt powerless and weak when dealing with this man who wasn't afraid of the Holy Church and was too strong to beat. On the other side, "You should go. King of Chambord, there are still more than 20 Sun-class warriors of death. You have to get out of here alive and pass out the information to unveil the evil dealings of the Holy Church to the world." Seeing the giant, chilly figures who were engulfed in black death energy outside the palace quietly moving closer, the busted woman in red panicked. From the bottom of her heart, she wanted this young master to leave here alive. "Huh? Your figure is so alluring that it can only be created by devils, but your heart is kind. However, unveiling the evil plan of the Holy Church. This mission is so big that I can't bear. You can do it yourself," Faye said while pouting. This woman put it lightly, but the Holy Church had been operating on the continent for thousands of years, and it had many fanatic believers. How could Faye unveil the scheme alone? The Holy Church could just say that he was trying to frame the organization and punish him. "You?" The busty woman in red was a little frustrated. If she could leave here and spill the information, why was she still staying here? However, in the next second, the King of Chambord flashed and appeared in front of her. Faye was so close that his masculine sensation made her lean back a bit more subconsciously. However, when she did that, her leg injuries reminded her of the current situation as she fell back down. Rip. Quickly, she saw the King of Chambord tearing away the edge of her dress and commenting, Although you seem old, your legs are still beautiful with alluring curves. Unfortunately, they are corroded by the death energy and turned black. What a pity. You?" The busty woman in red was angry and terrified. Since she was young, she was talented and beautiful. She was devoted to the path of cultivation, so she was now 60 years old yet still a virgin. For ordinary people, being 60 years old already put them in the category of the elderly. However, for Sun-class lords, being 60 years old was no different from being 16 years old for ordinary people. The busty woman in red was still at her growing stage. Since no man had dared to tease her like this, she struggled and tried to fight back subconsciously. "Be good. Don't move." Slap. Her legs were clutched down abruptly, and her bouncy but got slapped before she felt a tingling and burning sensation. Just as this busty woman in red was about to concentrate her energy and put up a death fight, her legs that were corroded by death energy and lost all senses suddenly felt a warm and tingling sensation. She was shocked and lowered her head to immediately look down. The holy and noble golden flames rushed out of the King of Chambord's palms, and the parts of her legs that he touched started to heal. The golden flames easily suppressed the spreading death energy, and the black color of her legs began to disappear at a visible speed. Soon, her legs returned to the fair color, and they were smooth again. You can actually heal the corrosion of the death energy of the undead." The busty woman in red was stunned, and she stuttered as an elated expression appeared on her face. She felt like she was going to survive this. "Whoa, finished. Your leg's hand feel is great. Faye teased her. After getting rid of the death energy, he instantly felt the smoothness and bounciness of her legs, and he was really tempted. Although this busty woman in red lacked the nobleness and celestial aura that Elena and Angela had, she had the aura that only women who had been through life could have. In addition, her skin was smooth, her figure was insane, and she was a beautiful sun-class lord. This time, the busty woman in red didn't react too aggressively to Faye's tease. She stood up and stomped her feet, and she didn't feel anything strange. Her warrior energy circulated in her energy channels freely, and she felt like she just woke up from a great night of sleep. Her spirit was high, and all other injuries on her body healed. Such a mysterious and profound man. She quietly changed her view of Faye. At this moment, boom! The stones deep inside the palace flew up, and the dust on the ground boiled as black mist rushed out. Foolish human! Your despicable and ignorant action has angered the great demonic armor Baturk. You are dead! That voice, which appeared like it was from a metal mechanism, finally sounded a bit angry. Further away, dark demonic armor Baturk, who got knocked away, flew up from under the shattered 5-colored crystal throne, and his figure that was more than 3 meters tall shook the small stone pieces and dust off his body. With death energy howling around him, he slowly walked out of the ruins. At the same time, cold, mechanical footsteps sounded from all directions. The 22 sun-class warriors of death surrounded Faye and the busty woman in red with murderous spirits permeating the air. Quickly hand that item over. Otherwise, you are dead for sure. Alexander. Now that the situation was within their control again, the blonde, curly-haired priest dared to roar at Faye. Right now, dark demonic armor Baturk and priest Andy knew that they could only work together. Otherwise, they both might be killed by the terrifying man in front of them. Do you think I'm stupid? I will die if I hand it over. Faye's dirty smile made his opponents want to smash his face. The king turned his head and smiled at the busty woman in red beside him, and he said, "Oh right, this busty. No, drop-dead gorgeous lady. I don't know your name yet." Susan. The female warrior in red stared at Faye as she concisely replied while gathering her warrior energy. At the moment, she was really concerned. Their enemies had 22 warriors of death, and there were the dark demonic armor Baturk and priest Andy. They had more than 10 times the masters. Since Faye and Susan were at a numbers disadvantage, this female master didn't have any hope in defeating the priest and the demon. However, from the strength that the young man beside her showcased, they could safely escape if they coordinated well. Okay. Beautiful Miss Susan. Do you want to beat this fat pig-like priest half-dead to vent your anger? Susan froze for a second since she wasn't anticipating this. However, after thinking that her team was fooled by this despicable priest and got sold like objects, and everyone but her was turned into undead creatures and couldn't even rest in peace, Susan's anger toward priest Andy reached a new height. Therefore, she said without thinking, "Of course I do." Instantly after she said that, she shook her head and said with reason, "But not now. We need to get out of here first, and we can plan everything else later." Later. Faye looked at this sexy woman in front of him as if he were looking at a moron. "When we are out, do you dare to beat a deacon of the Holy Church in the open? Besides, this fatty might act like he is the victim and put the blame on us before killing us with the power of the Holy Church." Susan instantly froze. "Let's do it now." A strange smile appeared on Faye's face, and he said, "I will give you one opportunity, and you can beat this blonde fat pig one-on-one. Of course, it would depend on your own strength if you can kill him or not." After saying that, Faye acted a little and pretended to chant a spell to fool them. Then, he summoned those 15 sun-class barbarian warriors. This was the summoning skill that Faye obtained after completing the quest, named Rescue on Mount Arit. He could instantly summon 15 sun-class barbarian warriors for 15 minutes, and he could summon them 3 times a day. Bright teleportation portals suddenly appeared in the dark palace, and the barbarian warriors that were more than 2 meters tall walked out of the portals. Their muscles were so big and defined that they looked like sculptures, and wild auras enveloped them. They were wearing strange armor and holding giant double-handed axes that looked like movie props, appearing to be demonic gods who walked off a prehistoric battleground. Everyone in the palace was so shocked that they almost bit off their own tongues. The powerful auras of these muscular warriors told everyone that they were Sun-class lords, and everyone including Susan was stunned. Summoning 15 Sun-class lords instantly, this is a godly skill? They thought to themselves. Hee hee. Ha ha. Do you think you are the only one with henchmen? Faye asked while he laughed. He was delighted with the visual effect of these barbarian warriors appearing in this world. He stated a famous quote from his previous life. When you are out doing business, you have to remember 3 key things. First, you need to be loyal. Second, you need money. Lastly, you need many henchmen. Haha. Did you think Big Bro doesn't know these basic principles? Haha. Brothers, attack them. Faye's last sentence was for the barbarian warriors. Instantly, wild and explosive roars resonated in the palace. For the honor of the immortal king, while rumbling footsteps sounded, the 15 barbarian warriors instantly attacked. They already selected their targets ahead of time, and they roared and battled. These giant barbarian warriors felt slow and dull to others, but that wasn't the reality. Barbarians were known for their close-range combat skills out of the 7 classes in Diablo world, and they had masteries over various weapons and clan skills. After Faye equipped them with giant axes that were rare gold items, they all became invincible mincers. They instantly locked down their opponents like metal wires tangling around nails, initiating the most primitive and blood-boiling battles between men. Howl, taunt, berserk, whirlwind, leap attack. All barbarian skills were demonstrated in this small space. These 15 barbarian warriors were the elites of the barbarian clan in Harrogath, and they were on such a legendary level that even Faye couldn't match their extensive combat experience and battle wisdom. Since they battled in the front line against Hell, they fought with demons and monsters of Hell all the time. They were extremely familiar with the combat style of these warriors of death, and they suppressed these warriors of death who were mostly turned from Sun-class lords from the beginning. 15 versus 22. If the warriors of death didn't have the numbers advantage, the battle would have ended soon. On the other side, no one knew if the blonde, curly-haired priest were shaking due to fear or anger. Right now, Priest Andy pointed at Faye and was at a loss for words. His mind turned blank, and he didn't know what to do. Since this little king came to their attention, the Northern Regional Church had suffered great losses due to his existence. It felt like this man was the Holy Church's natural nemesis. However, this blonde, curly-haired priest didn't have much time to think. Busty, red-clothed Susan had already started attacking him without holding back. As soon as Faye summoned those barbarian warriors, Susan understood Faye's intention, so she didn't hesitate anymore and no longer suppressed her anger. Like an enraged female lion, she attacked Priest Andy with full force. Each of her strikes was lethal and vicious, showing no mercy at all. You dare to attack a member of the Holy Church? Aren't you afraid of the execution teams of the Holy Church? The blonde, curly-haired priest threatened, using his loud voice as he tried to dodge and defend. However, it seemed like Susan had made up her mind. Without saying anything, her smooth, beautiful hands grasped in midair, and a level 4 combat weapon appeared. It was a thin saber. Susan hacked toward Priest Andy's vital body parts, and the two of them battled. It seemed like they couldn't finish the battle in a short time. On the other side, come on. Our henchmen are already fighting. As bosses, it is time for us to battle one-on-one. Faye switched to his barbarian character and laughed like a hooligan who was teasing a nice lady. While he cracked his knuckles with bad intentions, he got closer to dark demonic armor Baturk one step after another. At this moment, the blood-red eyes of this demon that were hiding behind the black mist contracted a little like a human. It was visible to the human eye, and it seemed like he was shocked by what he saw. Then he roared in anger like a madman. While the Black Death energy boiled and wrapped around him, Baturk stomped on the ground with one of his giant metal boots. Boom! 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 Streaks of black light beams shot out under Faye's feet, forming a light prison and trying to lock Faye inside. However, Faye didn't seem to care. He casually placed his hands on the light beams that acted as the iron bars and pulled, and the light prison was broken as if those light beams were a few pieces of rotten wood branches. Hey! Pay attention and be serious. We are battling after all. The black mist that was enough to melt Sun-class lords couldn't get within 10 centimeters of Faye, so it didn't pose any threat to him. The blood-red flames that were burning in Bastrick's eyes flashed and became unstable. Then, he raised his head and roared as if he were summoning something. Suddenly, footsteps sounded, and 6 figures rushed out of the collapsed throne. These 6 warriors of death were unexpected, and their strengths were between peak full moon and low-tier morning sun. They were wearing fancy royal robes with golden armor underneath, had golden crowns on their heads, and holding royal swords. They should be masters of the royal family of Angie, but they were turned into warriors of death by this undead creature, and they were out of the expectation of the Holy Church. Boom! 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 The 6 warriors of death charged forward, and it sounded like tens of thousands of ancient elephants were running around. The ground rumbled, and the palace shook violently, looking like it was about to collapse. To ordinary masters, the warriors of death weren't terrifying for their combat strength. They were scary since their bodies were as tough as steel, and they had no sense of pain and were fearless. Their battle style was suicidal, trading blow for blow. Also, the death energy that engulfed them would invade their enemies' bodies when there were open wounds. Like worms that were attached to bones, this energy was hard to get rid of. However, to Faye, who had killed many demons and monsters of hell in Diablo World, these 6 warriors of death were too easy. They weren't even as threatening as the weakest monster, Fallen, on the first map in Hell Mode Diablo World. Damn, you copied my summoning, but your henchmen are so weak. Boom, 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 boom. After casually punching out 6 times, the terrifying energy fists accurately hit these 6 warriors of death, blowing them into pieces. Faye waved his hand, and the mystical energy that oozed out of their bodies got sucked into his body. His strength increased further. Boom! Faye exerted force through his feet and used the barbarian skill, Leap. The massive repulsion force created a deep, spiderweb-shaped crater on the stone floor. In the next moment, Faye appeared above dark demonic armor Baturk. With his hands grasping in midair, a red light flashed, and Immortal King's Stone Crusher appeared in his hands. While he was still above this half-human, half-demon creature, Faye targeted his head and smashed down the hammer. The king's force was so strong that even space was torn apart by the dull head of the hammer as many shocking black cracks appeared. The black death energy around this undead creature froze, and Baturk only had time to raise his arms to block it. Bam! A series of sparks flashed, and this monster that was more than 3 meters tall was smashed into the ground. Only his arms that were exposed in the air, and they were distorted with a huge hammer dent in them. Damn! This weak? Faye was confused as he looked around with the hammer on his shoulder. According to logic, this guy was the boss and he should be far more powerful. Now, the howls of the barbarian warriors resonated from afar. In just about 7 minutes, 4 warriors of death already got shattered and minced by the barbarian warriors and their axes. Since Faye summoned these barbarian warriors, the king could absorb the mystical energy that leaked out of the corpses of these undead creatures. With a wave of his hand, Faye took in 4 clouds of massive mystical energy. It was clear that he could only obtain more energy if he killed boss-level monsters. After only absorbing the mystical energy from these 10 warriors of death, Faye's barbarian character started to react. The energy in his body began to boil, and Faye felt like he could vaguely see the demigod realm waving its hands at him. On the other side, Susan, who was busty and in red clothes, was battling the blonde, curly-haired Andy. A berserk woman was terrifying enough, let alone a woman who was in sun class. The blonde, curly-haired priest was a little more powerful compared to Susan, and the holy energy of the Holy Church was known as the best healing energy in the world. Despite all this priest was in a terrible situation while battling this woman who was crazy and full of hatred towards him. Blood stained Andy's body, and the flesh flipped and curled around the wounds that were showing white bones. Like a fat pig that got stabbed, Priest Andy snorted in anger and tried to fight back. However, it wasn't easy for Susan to completely kill this blonde, fat pig. Right now, her body was full of injuries left by the light sword in Priest Andy's hand. Faye shook his head as he watched. Just as he was about to help, he suddenly sensed extreme danger. Boom! A giant sickle suddenly hacked toward Faye from the back horizontally, trying to turn him into two halves. However, in the next moment, Faye already appeared 10 meters away, and his body that was cut in half slowly disintegrated and disappeared. In that split second, Faye already dodged away, and the sickle only cut through his afterimage, which was left there due to his fast speed. Dark demonic armor Baturk stood there with death energy boiling around him. He was holding a giant black sickle. The handle of this weapon was more than 6 meters long, and the blade was more than 3 meters long. Various profound and mystical runes were engraved on the sickle, and streaks of dark red light flowed on it. The blade was in blood-red color, and black blood was dripping down the tip of the blade. It looked like the legendary death god sickle that the Grim Reaper used to harvest life. Faye's gaze focused on Basterk's arms. The deep dents and deformities that Immortal King's Stone Crusher left on them completely disappeared. Huh? Interesting. So he can self-heal. My full-force hammer strike would have even killed a giant dragon. But he is still alive. Could it be that this guy named Baturk is an unkillable warrior? Faye thought to himself. While dragging Immortal King's Stone Crusher on the ground, Faye walked closer to dark demonic armor Baturk one step at a time. At least in terms of presence, Faye had already completely suppressed this monster. The red flames flashed inside the dark demonic armor wildly, and the black mist around him suddenly started to scream and howl like crazy, while human faces that were the size of washbasins appeared, dashing towards Faye and trying to devour him like hungry ghosts. Faye snorted and activated Barbarian skill. Howl. Then, the force that could strike fear into souls suddenly appeared. The black ghosts that were flying toward Faye let out shrill screams of fear and scattered as if they were running for their lives. At the same time, Baturk turned into a black light beam and dashed over. He was so fast that it was hard for human eyes to capture his whereabouts. Faye slightly paused and squinted his eyes before suddenly raising the giant war hammer in his hand. Tink! Sparks flew in all directions. Death God's sickle was less than 10 centimeters away from Faye's neck, and its sharp, bloodthirsty blade was blocked by Immortal King's Stone Crusher after Faye quickly spotted it. Huh? This monster's strength increased. At this moment, Faye sensed that dark demonic armor Basterk's strength had increased by 1-fold. It felt like he was a completely different creature. Right now, the chilly and corrosive energy within the giant death god's sickle gushed out like the water in a fountain, wanting to bypass the war hammer and directly get into Faye's body. However, Immortal King Stone Crusher was a godly item that was once used by Immortal King Bulkathos, and its quality was higher than Death God's sickle. How could this evil energy penetrate or bypass it? Boom! Faye and Baturk both unleashed their full strength. After the two terrifying energies collided, the repulsive force created sent both flying backwards. It seems like this sickle is a treasure. I will seize it and have a look. Perhaps undead mage Hazelbank could use it. Isn't that old man always lacking a proper and suitable weapon? Faye quickly thought to himself, and his body paused for a second in the air while flying back, and then he turned into a beam of light and dashed forward. On the other side, dark demonic armor Baturk did the same thing. Boom! 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 Tink! 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 The golden energy and the black energy collided and intertwined with each other, emitting a level of passion similar to a fight between a couple. The energies formed, collided, exploded, and disappeared in cycles, and the dense metal colliding noises sounded like raindrops that were hitting leaves in a storm. In the beginning, others might have been able to capture the rhythm of the battle. However, by the end, it was so loud and repetitive that it sounded like one long noise. Both Faye and Basterk's attack and movement speeds were insanely fast. For a moment, people couldn't see where they were in mid-air, and they could only see light flashes and hear explosions. Boom! The giant and majestic main palace in the royal palace of Anji started to whine and collapse. It was being pushed and torn by the power of various masters. Even though the dark energy strengthened it, it couldn't bear all that. The palace was supported by hundreds of thick stone pillars that each could only be entirely hugged by 10 people together. Now, all of them broke and fell, and the ceiling that was painted with images of gods cracked and fell next. The giant stone plates and boulders fell to the ground like raindrops in a storm. Boom! Boom! The golden light beam and the black light beam rushed up, going against all the giant falling rocks. Faye and Basterk's battle proceeded in the sky. Still, they were enveloped by energy flames, and clouds of sparks flashed in the sky. The arcs left in the air by weapons could be seen from time to time, but their figures couldn't be spotted. On the ground, Busta Susan in red was still fighting with blonde, curly-haired priest Andy. However, compared to the fancy and grand battle that was happening in the sky, which was similar to the legendary battle of the gods, the two of them were having a more bloody and cruel battle. Both were covered in blood. Susan was faster in speed and had more extensive combat experience, but Priest Andy had more endurance and shocking healing abilities. Both were in the heat of battle and devoted themselves to the fight, and they used all their energy and even trade blow for blow. They couldn't wait to kill their enemy instantly. At the same time, the battle between the 15 barbarian warriors and the warriors of death was coming to an end. The warriors of death lacked human-like intelligence, and they only kept their combat instinct and reflexes from when they were alive. Therefore, they were most affected by the collapse of the palace. Some of them were buried under the giant rocks, and some of them lost their limbs. Although these injuries were nothing to them who were in Sun class, and they could heal up with the support of death energy, the barbarian warriors seized this opportunity and attacked aggressively. The golden-colored rare axes instantly minced 7 warriors of death like a blade storm. Now, the warriors of death were in a real numbers disadvantage. I have pretty much figured out the combat style and ultimate power of this monster. Then, I need to quickly finish him off. Otherwise, after the 15-minute summon time is up, this girl with an insane body is going to be in trouble. Faye, who was in the speedy battle, decided not to prolong it anymore. Increase speed. Activated. Berserk. Activated. With these 2 barbarian skills activated, Faye entered a frenzied and violent state. His body increased in size, reaching more than 2 meters tall and looking like a giant. His speed also doubled, and his strength and damage skyrocketed as well. Now, Faye was way stronger than dark demonic armor Baturk. Tink. Immortal King's Stone Crusher knocked away Death God's sickle and broke its defense for the first time in this battle. Faye instantly captured this opportunity and dashed forward, getting extremely close to Baturk. Then, he demonstrated why barbarians were known to be the close-range combat masters to the teeth. Not only the war hammer in his hand. Any part of Faye's body could be turned into a terrifying weapon, and the king attacked and landed those strikes onto Basterk's body repeatedly like the raindrops in a massive storm. Bam! 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 The dark mist engulfing dark demonic armor Baturk got knocked away, revealing the surface of the black armor that was engraved with many runes. As Faye's strikes landed on Baturk one after another, shocking dents quickly appeared on the surface of the armor. The armor that was more than 3 meters tall was full of dents, looking like the surface of the moon that had many craters on it. It continued to be dented and gradually deformed. Clouds of black mist circulated on the armor. The black demonic armor could miraculously self-heal, and it was trying its best to recover from the dents. However, Faye's attack speed was far faster than the self-recovery speed of the armor. In the blink of an eye, Baturk roared in anger while Faye beat it like a sandbag. This undead creature could not fight back, and it fell toward the ground powerless like a broken doll.